Synopsis of Episode 6, Antwerp Blues. The tenuous ceasefire between the Harrigans and the Stevensons is broken in the wake of Ron Stevenson's murder by car bomb, which was planned by Maeve Harrigan. When opposing forces converge, Harry de Souza, a streetwise fixer, is caught in the crossfire of a conflict between two warring crime families that has the potential to destroy lives and bring down entire empires. The fixer for the Harrigan family, Harry de Souza, becomes entangled in growing hostilities. Harry must negotiate conflicting allegiances and make crucial choices that could decide the fate of both empires as both families prepare for war. The moral quandaries, betrayals, and repercussions of the individual's previous deeds are explored in greater detail in this episode. At Richie Stevenson's request, the Harrigans attended Tommy Stevenson's burial in Episode 5. The Harrigans consented to go despite their concerns of a trap, sneaking guns inside the Stevenson residence as a safety measure. During the wake, tensions increased as the Stevensons were provoked by Maeve and Eddie Harrigan. The conflict between the families was essentially reignited when Maeve's rage reached a breaking point and she ordered a vehicle bomb that killed Ron Stevenson. Fast forward to the following morning. Richie is sprawled out on the couch, overcome by grief and alcohol. Ron walks in, heading to the stores. She gets into her car and leaves the house. Bang! Harry, however, reasoned that if Richie agreed to their plan to have Valjean blamed for Tommy's death, he would not attack the Harrigans in such a public place because it would not only invite almost certain law enforcement intervention but would also be detrimental to the general operations of London's criminal enterprises. They were determined that they would not arrive at the Stevenson home without some risky presence for the host, even if they came to the shaky conclusion that it would be in their best interests to attend the burial, and maybe further dispel the rumor that Eddie was responsible for Tommy's murder. In the end, Harry's intuition was right, and Richie reluctantly showed respect for the Harrigans' attendance at both the wake and the funeral. Since it would have been established that there is no trust or peace between the families, it would have effectively been a declaration of war and an admission of guilt if no one from their family had showed up. Richie's somewhat smart invitation was motivated by his knowledge that this would be the case. He either found a reason to exact revenge on the Harrigans or he got them within his roof so he could face them all. Retribution was another interesting line Richie drew in the sand. He made it clear that he and his men were free to take Eddie anywhere they saw him in public, which is very reasonable in the eye-for-an-eye culture of the criminal underworld. But Richie saw that a full-scale gang war could only lead to death and lost revenue for the Stevensons and the Harrigans, and that nothing positive could ever come from it. It's intriguing to observe that Richie, who the Harrigans have portrayed as essentially a wild dog, is the composed and sensible one in this scenario. Eddie refused to take his sunglasses off as he approached Richie, which was likely simply confirmation of what Richie already knew. He has mentioned several times since episode 1 of MobLand that what he wanted was to look Eddie in the eye and have him tell Richie that he didn't kill Tommy, so he could see the truth firsthand. Since Richie had known all along that Eddie was the cause of Tommy's death, either from a witness or just instinct given the circumstances and individuals involved, it was obvious that he wanted to get close to Eddie in order to murder him. Harry and Conrad had no intention of waltzing into the lion's den without anything, even though they were quite certain that there would not be an attack at the Stevenson residence. By having Freddie, one of Richie's buddies, put a bag of guns and explosives in Richie's garage, Harry was able to smuggle weaponry into the Stevenson home. Maeve was already planning to use her as the next big chess piece to fall in her scheme to start a war with the Harrigans, so Ron's insulting and laughing in her face at Tommy's wake was about the worst thing she could have done. After pushing Eddie toward conflict once more by having him shoulder bump a Stevenson guard, Maeve was drugged by her son Kevin as a precaution to remove her from the game, since everyone knows what an antagonistic wild card she is. In the Mafia, Il Bacio della Morte, or The Kiss of Death, was either directly or indirectly referenced by Eddie when he tried to plant a kiss on Ron's cheek. It usually indicates that a member of the criminal family has been targeted for execution by a mafia boss, usually as a result of treason. Despite Conrad's denial, Maeve accuses him of drugging her as soon as she wakes up, storms out, and promptly phones their man Paul. We can draw some conclusions about what Maeve and Paul talked about even if the conversation takes place off-screen because the very next scene shows Ron leaving her house to go shopping and her car blowing up when she tries to start it. When Maeve's plan to use Eddie to kill Tommy and incite a clan war ultimately failed, she immediately went on to the next, more severe assault. In order to push the Harrigans closer to war with the Stevensons, Maeve has persisted in controlling everyone in her vicinity, particularly Conrad and Eddie. Richie is aware that a conflict between the two families is just bad business, but she has accused Harry of being a rat, isolated Brandon and Serafina, and seems to only want mayhem. Given that she increasingly appears to be the rat in the Harrigan household, it appears as though she has a deeper agenda. Maeve might be hoping to seize control of the criminal enterprise in the heart of MobLand. Given that Conrad has been openly accused of being a serial adulterer throughout his life and that she seems to take offense at this, she may potentially be behaving out of pure spite and retaliation. He brought Serafina into the family after cheating on Maeve with a startlingly young Bella, and he loves her despite the fact that she is the result of his infidelity. Maeve appears to be sufficiently enraged, deranged, and lubricated to act on her worst instincts and destroy the Harrigans.